My bad, my bad.
Go. Yellow flag.
All right, marshals, y'all got to pay attention.
Ready.
Good morning. Welcome.
Go.
How are you? I'm Jim.
I'm Richard.
Welcome to our slot car.
You own this place?
Yeah. Were you the gentleman that called about bringing a couple boys, or?
No.
Nope, okay.
No, I'm just down. Actually, we leave tomorrow just to go back to Maine. We're
Okay.
down here for 4 months.
Uh-huh.
Is this the same track that was out on Main Street?
No, it's gone. We got rid of it.
Seeing this, I stopped over a couple times. I never could catch it open.
Well, we're here not from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday.
That's right. I saw those hours. I was surprised. Just a group of guys that like to race.
Yeah. We try not to make it a club environment. Not that there's anything wrong with clubs, but that tends to narrow the scope of who comes.
No, I probably had a slot car set when I was 10 years old and the other kids. And I even saved up my money, got a piece of plywood and set it up in the attic and built a track
Yellow
on
flag.
it.
Go.
Ogilvy, I guess. Hill climb
Okay.
in the basement of an old church.
10 seconds
Raced
left.
there some. And right now
5 seconds.
I have a 4-lane Carrera high bank set up in my basement.
Heat over. Give me 1 second. All right, Jim Bell is currently your leader with 24 laps. Scott Van Buren 23, Don Parsons 21, and Bob Struck 20. Fast lap goes to Scott Van Buren with a 4.858, Jim Bell with a 4.905, Don Parsons 5.310, and Bob Struck 5.416.
Go.
We got a lot of videos on YouTube if you go to Sebring Slot Cars.
I will do that, yeah.
And also we got some short clips on Facebook that are pretty cool.
I don't see too many young fellas in here. I guess
We do have one that races with us normally, but he couldn't come today. It's what we call Sportsman, which is where people get established and then they move up from here into expert, and then from expert to pro class. That way, people aren't getting killed
1 minute left.
with the beginners trying to run with the
Yellow
more
flag.
seasoned. Yeah. Thursdays we were running probably close to 20 on Thursdays.
Yep.
And then Saturdays we were running, close to 16 every Saturday, at 16, 17, 18. And this is a light group. We've got several guys that are local that just aren't here. So like next week we could have, half again this many or maybe even double.
And Saturday mornings is the beginners.
It's everybody. We run all 3 groups Saturday morning.
Oh, you do?
We'll run the experts with the pro.
10 seconds left. 5 seconds left.
We just got finished running Can-Ams down there. The pros will run GT3 down there probably.
Deep.
All right, Jim Bell still your leader with 48 laps. Scott Van Buren second place with 46. Don Parsons 42. Bob Struck 41. Coming off of white. Bob goes to red. Don Parsons goes from blue to purple. Scott goes from black to yellow, and Jim Bell yellow to orange. Fast lap goes to Jim Bell with a 4819, Scott Van Buren a 4907, Don Parsons with a 5393, and Bob Struck a 5450.
Oh yeah.
Track. You went too late. Too much party.
This is the view that's recording here.
Seconds left. 10 seconds left. 5 seconds left.
All right, heat over. Jim Bell is your leader with 72 laps. Scott Van Buren still second place with 69. Don Parsons and Bob Struck. Don with 62. Bob with 61 coming off a red. Fast lap goes to Scott Van Buren 4824. Jim Bell 4832. Bob Struck with a 5455 on red, and Don Parsons a 5495 on purple. Laps that segment. Jim Bell with 24, Scott with 23, Don and Bob each with 20.
Go.
Heat over.
Heat over.
right, Jim Bell, 94 laps. Scott Van Buren picked up 1 at 92. Don Parsons, 83. Bob Struck, 82. Laps that segment. Scott, 23. Jim, 22. Don and Bob each with 21. Fast lap goes to Scott Van Buren with a 4.812. Jim Bell, a 4.992 on white. Bob Struck, a 5.413 on green. And Don Parsons, a 5.526 on black. Jim Bell and Scott Van Buren are now tied 116-116. Fight to the finish. Don Parsons 104 and Bob Struck 102. Laps that segment. Scott Van Buren picked up 2 on the field with 24. Jim Bell 22 on the red lane, which is good. Don Parsons 21 and Bob Struck 20. Fast lap goes to Scott Van Buren on the white lane with a 4.843. Jim Bell a 4.951 on red. And Don Parsons a 5.436 on yellow. And Bob Struck a 5.549 on blue. And everything on the top shelf is my collection. Can you tell I enjoy slot cars?
Yeah. This is a whole different level than what
And everybody here will help you. They'll tell you anything you need to know.
So are you
Heat over.
Heat over.
Scott Van Buren held on with 140 laps. Jim Bell 138. Don Parsons 125. Bob Struck 123. Laps that segment. Scott with 24 laps on red. Jim Bell 22 on green. Don and Bob each with 21 each. Fast lap goes to Scott Van Buren 4922. Jim Bell 4956. 5370 for Bob and a 5373 for Don. Their race, and then the pros will run their race.
But it's the same guys.
Huh?
But it's the same
No,
guys.
no. See, like this is one group. This group here is running here in GT3, and then the pros want to run that track in GT3, so they'll go over there and race. But that both groups raced over there for Can-Am. And so basically one group marshals for the other. We just, we want everybody to race at their level and bring them along, cultivate them, and we don't lose many people from being discouraged. We made a mistake when we had the 124s and that couple of us kind of dominated, and you bring new people in and they're trying to race against the better drivers and you get beat by 50 laps. It's just not any fun.
Yeah.
And had one guy that ran one race and never came back because he got beat so bad. And each class will race generally by themselves. Now, most of the time now, the experts and the pros run together, and then we divide them at the end of the race.
Okay. Is Saturday morning your hot day?
Thursdays and Saturdays both.
Okay.
Yeah. We're probably going to have to add another day in the fall.
20 seconds left.
I can see where we could double what we're
10
doing.
seconds left.
I really believe that.
Yeah, I don't even know if there is a track in Maine. There used to be one in Brunswick, which is an hour
Yeah.
from me, and that wasn't.
Van Buren is 163 laps. Jim Bell 161. Don Parsons 145. Bob Struck 143. Laps that segment. Scott and Jim Bell each with 23. Don and Bob each with 20. Fast lap goes to Jim Bell with a 4823. Scott Van Buren a 4888. Bob Struck with a 5423 and Don Parsons a 5472. So the blue lane, Scott Van Buren is leading by a little less than a full lap, and Jim Bell is on purple, trying to catch Scott. So they got a pretty good race going there. And then Don and Bob are in a runoff also, with Bob at 154 and Don. Well, they're 2 laps apart. Don's currently 157 and Bob 155. So, wrecks do matter.
Yellow flag. Ready.
Alright, so Scott's outside the bridge, and Jim Bell. There went Scott, and there went Jim. That was Don and Jim Bell right there. So they're about a 3/4 lap separation. Last heat, pressure's on. race over. Need to get positions. Scott Van Buren is your winner with 187 laps. Jim Bell second place with 186. Don Parsons pulled third place with 167, and Bob Struck 165. Laps that segment, Jim Bell picked up a lap on Scott with 25 laps. Scott had 24. Don Parsons, Bob Struck tied at 22 each. Fast lap goes to Jim Bell with a 4.768. Scott Van Buren a 4.824. Bob Struck a 5.460, and Don Parsons a 5.501. Hope you enjoyed the race. We're getting ready for the Pro Series GT3. We'll be running that on the black track. So we'll talk to you later.